way. So bear with us, any kind of technical issues, any kind of things like that. We are figuring it out as we go. But who better to have help figure it out than somebody who is here to talk to us about social media analytics and data. So fucking you, when I asked people to be a part of this podcast, that was one of the topics that I thought was a good starting point because a lot of comics have interest in this. So what's like your background with social media?
Sure. Well, I've worked in data science and data analytics literally my entire adult career. When I was really young, this is going to be kind of crazy, but I lived down the street from a baseball card shop. So I spent a lot of time just like looking at statistics, memorizing numbers, found out pretty early on that I had an eidetic memory, and that kind of interest in numbers and stats and trends, I've carried through that with me through every job I've ever held, all of my kind of passionate side pursuits. So my pursuit of photography, my pursuit of comedy, and like for anyone who's a content creator who's really doing anything online, understanding the way people engage with your content and how you can leverage that understanding to like further your reach and help reach your goals is like of immense importance.
Oh yeah, and I mean everybody's out here trying to get followers and trying to break the algorithm. I think the new thing now that I've heard is people putting a malfunctioning or a beeping smoke alarm in the back of like a TikTok video, because then people will comment like, "Hey, I think you need to change your smoke alarm."
Yeah, change your battery.
Yeah, and I don't. That's what I've heard. I'm not on TikTok personally, but
I think the thing that's funny is you hear. I mean, as a comedian who engages primarily socially with comedians, you tend to see a lot of people posting about, like you said, they want to crack the algorithm, and even the concept of I think how people understand the algorithm is fundamentally broken.
Okay.
The algorithm itself, loosely, there is a large algorithm, and people will say, oh, the algorithm it's changed. Well, realistically, by definition, algorithms are changing in real time. So the algorithm right now in this second is different than it was when I got here 20 minutes ago, because it's just absorbing all of the data, all of the interactions, all the way that people are kind of broadly dealing with their social media and then tailoring content explicitly to them. So if you yourself as a comedian are like, oh, I've hacked X, Y, and Z to make sure that my content is prioritized in the algorithm. The reason why that's fundamentally flawed is because every single member of your audience has their own algorithm.
Yeah.
And it's not an algorithm for what they put out, it's an algorithm for what they consume. So more than figuring out how you're going to break the algorithm, you just need to figure out, first and foremost, how to make better content. And if you're making better content that is, and this is kind of a buzzword you hear in social media a lot, if you make content that is sticky, Instagram's going to reward people who make things that people watch all the way through. Say if you make content that's like series based, things that are bingeable. So I have, for instance, I'm making 10 things about the best restaurants in Chicago. If people are interested in restaurants, they're going to watch the first thing and they're going to binge all of them. And the more you can keep people locked into the platform, the more that you're going to be rewarded in each individual user's feed.
Yeah, okay. So, like, this is probably where the dumb comment comes out. Because I'm, like I said, I'm not on TikTok.
Okay.
I'm kind of on Instagram. I'm mostly just on Facebook so I can rant about shit that I'm angry about. So
I respect that about you, John. Nothing has ever resonated with me more. As anyone who might follow me on social media, I do a lot of ranting and complaining myself.
This is when I started this podcast, because I was like, there's a lot out there that I want to talk about. And I feel like I can't talk about it with anybody because they don't know what the fuck I'm saying. Like,
I've got so much to say, and all you idiots are gonna hear about it.
Literally. Okay, so tailoring the content or getting content that it encourages, engagement,
sure,
or people to stick around. So what type of content is like should comedians be creating? Because I see a lot of like crowd work clips. That seems to be something that's popular now.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the topic of what your joke is about that you're posting, or if it's crowd work, we obviously know with the success of like Matt Rife, that's something that resonates with people and particularly can drive new people into your audience who maybe aren't necessarily huge comedy fans. But it's less, I think, about necessarily what the thing is about And it's more just a handful of principles like, does it look good? Okay, that's important. Like if you have a 4K camera, even if you're gonna post it in 1080p, filming in 4K so you get the most latitude to like crop in, reposition.
You told me before we started this that I should do that, so I am now doing that. So
Yeah. So a huge help. Having proper audio, and a big part about that is if retention is going to be the thing, like keeping people around is going to be the thing that's going to long term prop you up the most in the Instagram feed and get you the most exposure to people beyond your initial audience. Having bad audio, if you hear a comic's reel pop up and you listen to the first couple seconds and it sounds bad, you're struggling to hear them, maybe the voice is muffled and the crowd laughter is loud, whatever the case may be, but for some reason it doesn't sound good, nothing is going to make you turn it off faster than it's sounding bad. So again, it's more than just like, oh, my joke is about X, then there are some controllables. Good video quality, good audio quality, and I'd argue that the audio quality is probably a little more important. Making sure we're captioning everything.
Yeah, that's what I was about to bring up. Is like, it wasn't it like a certain percentage, like almost like either half or more than half of people are now watching videos without the audio on.
Oh yeah, depending on what source you look at, you can find data that shows like 80% of social media consumption is consumed with no audio. And even beyond that, there's also the accessibility concern of like, okay, I'm a seeing, hearing person, but not everyone can see and hear.
Yeah.
So making sure that the color schemes in your color edit are work for people who are maybe visually impaired. Having captions for people who are audio impaired, because for some people, having that audio isn't even an option. And yes, the deaf or hard of hearing community is not like a massive portion of the audience, but there's a Chicago comic right now. I don't know if you know Brad Klein. Mm-hmm. He is a child of deaf adults. Both of his parents are deaf. And he's got something like 60,000 followers because he found his niche. He creates content that explicitly speaks to them, and he knocks out of the park all of these like fundamental bedrocks of content creation: good audio, good video, good captioning. And then here's another one. You'll see, I actually just saw a comedian post about this last week. Tom Feline, I believe his name, suburban comic, got a pretty big audience. Yeah. He had posted something about not sharing things cross-platform that have a watermark on them. So like say you've made something in the Instagram editing app, or you've made something in the TikTok editing app, and then it goes on TikTok, it has your actual handle tagged on the video, and then you share that video on other platforms. Instagram and Facebook in particular, their feed can actually detect those watermarks, and they will deprioritize your content if they have watermarks from other platforms. So while there is some benefit to building your content within these platforms, broadly speaking, particularly if you're trying to get as much cross-platform reach as possible, you want to be making them in any video editing app that is not the platform. I would argue, like, I'm a pretty skilled editor at this point, so I mean, like, using a Premiere Pro or DaVinci, but even CapCut,
that's what I use.
The CapCut desktop is for social media content. I switched to it entirely. I've even tried to do some client work in it. It's kind of incredible, even the free version. So using good tools, not sharing watermarked content, having good audio. And then I think the final step to that is like having some sort of hook, whether that's like visual or with the joke. If you know your joke has a slow build, then the thumbnail for that post better be something that is like visually interesting, whether it's like the pose you were making on stage, maybe you're pointing at an audience member who's doubled over in laughter, something that says this is interesting to me. And I think all of those things, if you're making content that is good, there's a lot of people who are, the differentiator is making sure that these like fundamental bedrocks of content strategy are in place.
Okay, so I would like to talk a little bit about like frequency, because there's also the idea of like, okay, how much content should I be putting out there and how often should I be putting out there? Because it seems like, for me, I'm on stage, I don't know, like for an actual show, maybe three to 5 times a week.
Okay.
All right. So that's probably, compared to a lot of comedians in Chicago, that's actually quite a bit. But
humble brag. He gets booked, guys.
Internationally, and people are like, "Oh my God, how do you get booked?"
I think he's funny too.
The same way you get booked here, you send an email. You
yeah,
know?
Just be nice, try not to suck, and be a little professional.
Yeah, and then, sorry, we're going off on a tangent here, but a good way to get booked in Chicago is to leave Chicago. Actually, it's people see you, oh, you're working in Houston. Oh, you come back and all of a sudden people want to give you dates. So little life hack.
Every time I travel for my day job, I work out of Santa Monica, but I obviously live here near Chicago. And anytime I travel anywhere, I try to get stage time in other cities explicitly for that purpose.
Yeah, exactly. But back to that frequency question then. So like how often, and then like, should it be, say, obviously I'm doing this podcast. I also want to do a sketch series. I also want to put out, crowd work clips. Like, how often should I be putting out that material? And does it matter, like, if I do, primarily crowd work clips and then, like, once a week do the sketch or once a week do the podcast or something like that? Like, what would you recommend?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors to consider. First of all, like, you have an existing audience. You have people that already follow you, and what I think we do too much as content creators is we try to serve these like followers that already exist. We're looking at our analytics and we're like, okay, they're most active at X time on X days. And I'm sure you've heard people say, oh, I look at my analytics, I see people are on at like 4:30 p.m. So I'm going to post at 4:30 p.m. every day. Yeah. And logically, that seems like a great idea, but you're not necessarily just trying to serve the people who already follow you. You're trying to grow your audience. And the way you do that is by making things that broadly appeal, doing them at time intervals that make sense for you, but for your audience. So in terms of like consistency, be consistent is great advice, and it can mean a lot of different things. For some people, that's going to mean, hey, I post daily. Sometimes it's going to mean, hey, I post weekly. But whatever consistency looks like for you, then stick to that.
Yeah.
If you're a weekly poster and you think that suddenly switching to being a daily poster is going to do something for you, it can do small incremental things in terms of growth, but more likely than not, it's going to burn you out because it's not what you're used to. Maybe it doesn't fit in with your overall lifestyle. So I think just committing to something that you know that you can maintain and then maintaining it. And in terms of like the types of content that you would post, like whether it's crowd work or sketches or whatever, again, you just want to be, I think, again, what's more important is that you're using proper keywords, like, okay, this is what my reel is about. I've written an intelligently written caption that succinctly describes what the thing you're about to see is about. Mm-hmm. That's going to help for SEO. It's going to help for people who just like find that thing, whether they decide to watch or not. And then I know you'll hear some people say that like hashtags are bad and they should step away from them, but using the proper hashtags, it's not even just about increasing your reach. It's about letting Instagram know what your video is about and then making sure that people who want to see things about that are seeing it. So from a consistency perspective, it's more just about like finding what works for you and then sticking to that versus I've got to do daily. I've got to do 7 a.m. I have photo friends because I do a lot of photography, or like I post at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. every day. And you look at their account and they maybe have 50, 60,000 followers. Like, oh, that's a dream. I want to get to that. But what's realistic is they've been doing that for 7, 8, 10 years. And for most of that, they had no following. But when they eventually had a post, 2 posts, 3 posts that got some traction and brought people to their page, that their page was effectively prepared to handle that. That it is a landing page, that your bio is clean, that your photo is clean, that it says what you do, that it references who you are, and that when they get there, that there are other things that exist that are similar to the thing that already brought them. So if you're posting 3 different kinds of content, like you're posting crowd work, normal set, jokes, and sketches, as long as you have some of all of that, like say you have 100 posts and it's kind of equally split, a third on each thing, and one of those things pops, well, as long as you have 30 other posts that are like the thing that popped, you're going to increase retention, you're going to increase engagement. Instagram's going to like reward that. And I think we have this like desire to blow up instantaneously, so people will do a thing and oh, it's not working because I didn't blow up right away. Well, no, but you created something that's good. Don't just delete it automatically. Let it exist on your page, because at some point something will blow up. It is the nature, the virality of social media. Dude, the first TikTok I ever made, 90,000 views in an hour, and I was like,
that's what I heard. Is like,
okay,
if you're a new user to like TikTok, it will it will put your shit to the top of the queue or algorithm or whatever you want to say.
Sure.
It'll push it out there further than if this is your 90th post on TikTok.
Yeah, so there are definitely kind of conflicting reports about that. Internally, TikTok says that's like not really the case, but there are a lot of case studies that have been performed that show basically like a reward system that rewards people who are new posting or people who maybe haven't posted in a while. And the second part of that I think is important because you'll hear people say like, oh, my account's dead. I haven't posted in 6 months. Maybe I need to start a new account. And some people do that. And that's way too much work. I wouldn't necessarily advise doing that because you'll still get, if you're like, you know what, I haven't done this in 6 months, but I feel like there's value in me posting X type of content on whatever platform, you'll still get that little push. And it's honestly not unlike dating apps. Dating apps reward new accounts, which if you're here for that,
ass shots too.
They really do. Spread buttholes. If you can count the butthole spokes, you're gonna shoot to the top of the dating app algorithm immediately. It's your spokage ratio. I don't know.
Or get you reported. Either or.
I mean, I'm a mediocre white man. I get away with everything. Come on, John.
Hey, if you bleach it, you might get a few more followers.
Change your ringtone?
Yeah. Dude. Yeah, because I was thinking like I'm not on TikTok, but I know like that's where I want to be at some point.
Sure.
You know, and I was thinking like, okay, maybe I should accumulate a whole bunch of material that's more TikTok friendly, and then once I open my account, I already have this backlog of material I can put on there and just like have a consistent flow of like a new video every other day of me doing crowd work, but it already exists.
Sure.
I've already, done all that. So then I can build that, build that following and then work off of there. But that was kind of like my plan of how I wanted to do that. And I think that sounds all right.
It's certainly not a bad idea. The one thing I would say is a lot of times there's this, I don't know about you, but I consider myself a perfectionist. If I put something out in the world and it's not received in a way that I would like it to be received, there's like shame and doubt and guilt. It can be a slippery slope. But what you have to realize is there are hundreds of millions, billions of active users on all of these platforms, and there is an audience for whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And however you're doing it. Yes, there are ways that you can go about it that will make for an easier path, that will bring more people in front of you. But at the end of the day, if what you're doing is good, if you think it's good, we have this weird, I think it's like an innate human thing where we're so convinced that we're all unique. And in some ways we are, right? But the human experience is pretty common. And if you like something and you find value in something, in the 7 billion people on the earth, there's probably a couple other people who find value in the same thing you do.
Yeah.
And so there's, instead of being like, oh, I've got to create a thing that feeds this monster that might help me get famous, think, how can I find the people that will appreciate what I'm already doing, and then how do I do the thing that I'm doing the best way that I can do it? Not how can I think instead of, I know I'm kind of talking around this, but like so many people want to create a thing. The whole point of the creation is to get famous or to go viral.
Yeah.
Versus like, there's a thing I already do or I've created or I find funny. Now, what's the way that I can sort of tweak or tailor this versus a total creation strategy around creating something for someone? Create it for yourself, but do it the best that you can in a way that then works for other people.
Well, that kind of gets to like, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but it seems like there's a lot of now focus in like how comics are now writing their material towards social media.
Sure, yeah.
And it feels gross to me.
It does.
It's just like, you're just trying to get the followers from this, and not now your actual material on stage is now being influenced by how you want it to come off on a video, where like people are trying to do crowd work, and I'm just like, for fuck's sake, how many fucking crowd work clips are we gonna have out there, guys? Most of you aren't good at it. All right, I'll say it. It's fine. It's fine. It's true, man. Most crowd work is awful. But it's a magic trick that we're magicians and we know how it works.
Well, and I also think like someone like me, obviously, like for those of you who don't know us both, John is a much better comedian than I am, and I got like 8 to 10 minutes that's sometimes decent, if I'm lucky. And with that in mind, if I'm posting things online, it's either a joke that I know is gonna do well.
Yeah.
Like if I have around 3,000 followers on Instagram, which is like not a huge audience, very low mid. But if I'm gonna post something and I don't think it's gonna get 3,000 to 5,000 views, I'm probably not gonna post it because I don't have that much that I consider to be good. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why there are a lot of comics who don't have a ton of material and who aren't maybe great polished comics, and they're posting crowd work because they don't want to burn their material, right? And I would argue, write more jokes, and then you can post more of your jokes versus always posting crowd work.
Yeah, but it seems like that's what people want. And are like, you know, because I understand too the audience or somebody who's watching it. It seems like this genuine, unscripted moment, and in a way, it is. You know, at least from the audience's perspective.
Even if you ask the same question to the audience in the last 75 shows you've had.
Literally. And you know, it's for some people they crush it. They work really hard at crowd work, and they get really good at it, and then they put out material out there. You know, like Jeff Asmus. You know, he's amazing. Fucking great crowd work, dude.
Great comic. Follow Jeff Asmus.
Yeah. Free plug right there, Jeff. He's a good shit.
He unfollowed me on Instagram, so honestly, Jeff, you can get fucked.
All right, that'll be the promo. Now every week we'll just do a promo clip of somebody calling out another comic and just like. And that's the thing too. Now,
if you want, I'll go to my notes. I got a list of like 5 of these motherfuckers that could get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Oh Jesus, man!
But not Jeff. I'm just mad you should unfollow me. You can live to tell more crowd work jokes, King.
Well, I was thinking like everybody's about to have Ken Flores as a credit on their bios, and I was like, I was on a show with Ken Flores, and Ken's a great comic, but you know he blew the fuck up. So.
And that's a perfect example. So Ken posted a lot, and when he started taking off, there was a lot there.
Yeah.
So like, for him, because comedy, he had made a decision that he was going to pursue comedy in the way that he could, as hard as he could. He did not do. He'll tell you he was never a big open mic guy, which you'll hear comics be like, get out and go to every open mic. That's not for everybody.
Yeah. And
clearly, bro's got 250,000 followers, is signed to an agent, is all over LA. But when he popped, there were 50 other videos on his account already that they could watch, and a lot of crowd work because again, the relentless narcissism and egomania of every human being. It's like, I want to be the star of this. So then if you're watching it, you can put yourself in that spot and you're the star of this comedian's joke.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about like, and I know how much you actually know about this in terms of like monetization.
Sure.
Because I know it's now like Facebook is asking for people like have a professional.
Well, I'm monetized on Facebook and I love it.
That's great, man. Yeah. I know YouTube. I know how to like do monetization on YouTube, but like, you know, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, that's all foreign to me. So.
Sure. I mean, they all have a standard of like what you have to monetize your account, and Instagram and Facebook in particular, there's like tiers of it. So at a certain follower account, you unlock you unlock bonuses. So right now on Facebook, I'm like just under 5,000 followers, and I'm monetized for gifts and for bonuses. And so every 30 days, it allows me to, provided that I like meet a set amount of performance thresholds in that time frame, it allows me to opt into a bonus where they literally pay me on everything I post. And it's not like a crazy amount. Like I think the most I've made in a month's like $360, but I'm a pretty prolific social media poster. I got a lot of thoughts and you motherfuckers are gonna hear them. And just the other day, I posted a photo of a friend of mine, like us out doing something. And I was just looking at my analytics, which is what I do because I'm a psychopath. Mm-hmm. And I saw that on that post, I'd made 60 cents. Watch out, guys. Yeah. And so I messaged my friend. I was like, hey, I owe you 30 cents. You contributed to half of this. But, and I'm kidding. But once you unlock these things, Facebook in particular, whether it's a post of a slice of pizza I took or a post of an Instagram a reel that I've posted or like a take on something that's happening that's like hot in the pop culture. I know, like, for instance, what's not to get political, but what's going on in Ukraine, super important to you. Mm-hmm. So posting about things like that can really increase engagement. And since I've been monetized on Facebook, I've averaged about $150 to $200 a month. And for a dude who has like a day job and some side hustles, an extra $2,000 a year from Facebook for doing literally what I've been doing for 10 years anyway, it's not bad.
Yeah.
And occasionally you'll get a post where like, I had a week where every post that I made was making me like 10 to 15 bucks, which again, doesn't sound like a lot. But if it's not your primary thing and you're doing it as like a secondary hustle, you don't think $2,000 a year of essentially free money isn't worth it? It 100% is.
Yeah.
And then YouTube is interesting. That is probably the most effective place to monetize. That is like where the most money is to be made. they're just the most engaged active users. A YouTube viewer is just worth more to an advertiser than any other viewer. So if you can, on YouTube now, it used to be 1,000 followers to monetize. Now it's only 500. You need 500 followers and then a certain amount of hours of long form watch time or short form watch time. But once you get monetized, the opportunities are pretty endless. Now, Instagram, which is where we all love to play, they are the hardest to monetize. They used to have a thing called Reels bonuses, which I was opted into for a couple years and made, I don't know, a couple $100 on, but nothing too crazy. But you needed to get literally like, if you had, I had a reel get like 22,000 views and I made like 70 cents on it. Like it's not super lucrative. But if you're making content and you can do it in a way that allows you to package it and put it out everywhere, as you slowly get monetized, it's like creating these income streams that over time will become passive. Like a Ken Flores, he's got so much shit up, and I'm sure he's certainly monetized on platforms by now.
Yeah.
And as he's bringing new people in, say you're a comedy fan living on the West Coast, it's 2 a.m., you just smoked a fucking blunt, you're flipping through your Instagram, and you see Ken Flores just roast some dude at Austin. You're like, oh, that's fucking funny, I'm gonna check Ken Flores out. Next thing you know, it's 45 minutes later and you're 90 videos of Ken Flores crowd work in. Videos he's posted 6 months ago are still now creating engagement, driving traffic, and helping him get additional incremental cash.
Yeah, it's like having multiple revenue streams. So like you said, will it be your primary bread and butter? Probably not, but like having an additional $2,000, you know.
Who's gonna not say yes to that?
Yeah. And
Literally the first month I was monetized on Facebook, I think I made like a little over $300, and I was like, oh, this is pretty fucking great. Who doesn't love this? And I think because I'm a little bit older for the Chicago comedy scene and I have like a normie job for my day job, the way that I personally engage with social media can certainly like rub some people the wrong way, but it's what I can do in a way that's both genuine to who I am without exposing too much of me personally, like in a way that could like cause me problems in my life, but also like hopefully creates value. And I think the other thing is, I think the comedy community from a content perspective is like super insular. When we post, a lot of the people that are engaging with our shit are other comics. And that's not that helpful, if I'm being super honest.
Yeah, go invite other comics to your comedy shows, see how many show up.
Yeah, it's not that helpful. Like, and me, because I did other things first to create whatever little bullshit audience I have, the audience that I have is pretty engaged. And even if they don't like a single like one thing here or there that I do, they like me. And so if oh, hey, I'm your comedy buddy and I'm gonna like all your reels or whatever, but I'm not gonna watch them all through, there's not as much value in that at all. So I think creating the audience that you need to create for you is more important than like, oh, all of my friends engage in my thing. Because at the end of the day, your friends aren't gonna get you paid, your friends aren't gonna make you famous. Unless your friend's Ken Flores, then maybe.
Yeah, perhaps. But you brought up a good point there, because that's something I've been thinking about, is like making content that's genuine to you. Because, you know, I see a lot of the content that gets like a lot of other comedians make, and it's stuff that I would think like, oh, maybe I should try to do that, and I'm just like, that's so fucking stupid. And not that like the content that other people put out is dumb, but I'm saying like
for you
to try and do that, to replicate or be something I'm not. Like to do the whole like close in, like that, those types of like almost like Vine videos. You know, I'm just like, that's not the quick cut, you know, thing is not me. That's not what I do. So you know, now I'm trying to make content that's more about like how I like to present myself and put myself out there. So, you know, me doing a podcast like this, where I'm like, okay, I want this to be funny and have dumb moments, but also wanted people to walk away and have learned something. You know? Yeah,
I mean, providing value is the ultimate hack. And I think that is the most like broad, nebulous term, but of the broad and nebulous terms, which mostly are bullshit, that's the one that matters. Because value can be a lot of different things. You could be teaching someone a skill. You could be talking about a restaurant. You could be, if you're telling jokes, the value is the laughter, the humor. I mean, there are a couple comics that do pretty well on social media who are bad, and I think they know. And I'm saying that as someone who most of the time ain't great. But the comics that are bad, but the thing is they like know they're bad, and the bad is a part of the ride. And I've seen people literally get a ton of heat on social media with stuff we're like, how the fuck did this get 190,000 views? Because for somebody, that's valuable. Watching people be awful but be in on the joke, that's funny as fuck.
That's weird. Like when I meet a comic in real life and I see them on stage and I'm like, all right, you know, they're like maybe they're not terrible, but they're okay, and they're like a newer person, maybe like 3-4 years in. Like, all right, you know, I get to know them, and I see them on social media. It's like 190,000 followers. What the fuck? Like,
oh, dude, it's crazy who blows up, and you never know. That's what I'm saying. Like, there is an audience for literally everything, and there are so many things that we can do. Like I said, that we can control, and that's do the best that you can when it comes to actually conceptualizing the things you're going to create. So if you're writing a joke and you've been in comedy for 3 years, like I'm just moving up on my 4-year anniversary and I'm getting better all the time and I'm having better shows, but I'm still like have tons of room to grow. So do I think that my next reel, this joke, it's as good as Mark Norman or Sam Morril or fucking Dave? No, it's not. But as long as it's the best thing that I can create in this moment, from a content perspective, like, okay, the concept of the joke, the execution, does my personality and my charisma come across? Because I honestly, like, although being me rubs a lot of people the wrong way, being me is also what brings a lot of people in. And if I'm putting something out there, is it reflective of me? And then if it is it the best it can be? And then am I doing those controllables, the audio, the video, the captions, I said the posting times, that thing is kind of overblown. Honestly, posting an hour before the time that your audience is most active is an incredible trick. A lot of people will post a reel and then they'll share it to their stories. Don't do that. Wait an hour, wait till you have a handful of comments, and one of the comments, okay, here's an example. Say you post a reel, the joke is great, it's your first hour, it's up, maybe it's got 1,000 views, and it's tracking to get to at least in the 8,000 to 10,000 range. You've got maybe 10 comments, and someone who commented is maybe a comic, and it's a funny comment. But it also is proof that the joke is good. You can actually click and hold on their comment, and then Instagram now has a feature that says share to stories, and you share that comment to your stories, and it'll pull your reel with that comment. And what that's called is social proof. To anyone now watching your stories who may not have been inclined to watch your reel for whatever reason, in that moment it wasn't valuable to them, they figure they're going to get around to it later, but then they don't because they forget. In that moment, someone else thinks this is funny. And that sort of thing is tremendously helpful. So doing those controllables more than anything else is, I think, the key to helping yourself blow up.
Dude, I didn't know that. So that's actually really good advice, because I was like posting my reels alongside.
Don't do that.
Stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to what you said about like posting content that's like specific to you or specific to your experience. So like when I would post stuff more about like me being in the military, that was getting more traction than anything else I was posting. And like I have a video out there, and you're on a different, you're on a different scale of success than I am. So you're like 1,000 views. I'm like, I would love 1,000 views. You fucking kidding me?
And it's funny because you're so much better. But this is proof. So like, irrefutably, you are the better performer than I am. There's no, I don't have the ego to say that you're not. I would say if there are 800 people in Chicago performing regularly in stand-up, I'm ranked 361. Like, I'm better than the midway point, but way worse than the top 300 people. With that said, I do better on social media than most people.
Yeah.
Because I know how to do it. And anyone can figure out how to do it.
Yeah. I'm glad we're having this conversation. I think this is actually going to be incredibly helpful to a lot of comedians. Well, I mean, they'll probably will listen to it and do... And
they'll hate me too.
Well, they'll do one thing that you said, and then they'll be like, oh, fuck that. I'm going to go back to what I was doing.
Well, you know what? Honestly, if I could give... Can I look at the camera and give like my one key piece of advice?
Give your one key piece of advice. Go for it.
Okay. So we're going to do one thing, and I mean only one thing on Instagram to increase your chances of growing your audience. Go to Instagram from a desktop computer to where you get the full suite of things. Go to Edit Profile. Down at the bottom of the Edit Profile tab is a thing. It's like show profile suggestions on my profile, meaning that if you look at my profile, you look at John's profile, the first thing you're going to see underneath it before you see my content is like a small handful of other similar accounts. Now you're thinking, well, why does that help me increase my reach? Well, what it does is it also opts you in then to have your profile featured on other people's profiles who are similar. So opt into that. You'll start popping up on other people, but then here's the real hack. The handful of people that you keep seeing popping up under yours that is recommending to other people who like you, follow those people. Engage in their thing, because their audience is likely to be either your current audience or what you would like your current audience to be, and that is the single most important hack to drive social media growth.
Wow. All right. Right there. I think that's about it. I mean, I think we've covered a hell of a whole lot of stuff, shit. I mean,
All of it, bro.
yeah. I mean, this
Stuff,
is like
shit, crap, beard up, poop.
hell yeah, dude.
I'm gonna step in it outside.
You know what? I was like, you know what? I wonder how many times I'm gonna have to bleep in this video, and I could just cut this whole part out.
Yeah.
So. But dude, TJ, thank you so much for coming on and
pleasure. Thanks for having
sharing
me.
all this information. It's been very valuable. So, dude, thank you. And since we're doing social media, where can people find you, follow you, all that good
Sure. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at TJ Sopoci. That is TJ SOPOCI, and on TikTok at Team Teej, TEAMTEEJ. And honestly, man, I help a lot of people with stuff like this. If you're my friend, I'll probably do it for free. If I don't know you, I might charge you a little bit. But I'm always willing to take a look at your stuff and give you some feedback on things you might be able to do to help yourself out. But if you come to me and ask for help and then don't do that shit, that's on you.
All right. Well, TJ, been a pleasure, man.
Thanks, John.